there is a gap between what happens and how we respond. And in that gap is where our power lies. Even if it seems like we're powerless in the situation, the choice of response is where the power lies. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blu podcast. The podcast for me has got really, really exciting since we have migrated into the new magical, majestic set, as you can see. And today I am sitting with one of my closest sisters, my best friends, my co-creator, my business partner, and just a collaborator of life and weaver of magic and sister of devotion and the devotional path. My queen, Reggie Riverbear.
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the new set. What do you think?
I think it's possibly the most beautiful set. And even the word set feels off. It's more like portal. Like,
that was the intention.
Yeah. It's like we're here. Wherever we are in the universe, we're inside a magical cherry blossom tree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. To sit in the chair and be like, wow, this is a pattern interrupt into my everyday life. And I'm actually going to start accessing new levels and new dimensions of information based off of the fact that my body feels magical AF right now at this moment.
Is
it working?
It's working. It's a vibe.
Brilliant. I did have you in mind when I was purchasing the cherry blossom tree.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Reggie's going to tap into some next level wisdom underneath this cherry blossom tree, and it's a must.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if our spirits had a baby, it would possibly look like this tree.
Yeah. I have a feeling. Well, here we are.
Here we are.
In the byproduct of our love child.
Yes. Oh.
This set.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring you on today and do like a little bit of a different format than usually just me interviewing my guest and sort of sitting in silence while you spew your wisdom, even though there is so much time for that because, Reggie, you have an infinite amount of wisdom and you've been one of my greatest teachers to date. And I just freshly came back from Mexico and had a very profound activation on all planes of existence, and I wanted to talk about it and I wanted to share about it, and I was going to do a solo podcast and just sit down and kind of open my journal and go through and read and whatnot. However, we were chatting this morning and we had such a great conversation. I was just thinking, well, if we can capture this frequency of what we're talking about right now and bring it to the podcast and create more of a dynamics where we're sort of co-hosting it and kind of bouncing back and forth from each other with a theme of going through the dark night of the soul or going through a really big ego death or an identity restructure of how we weave on this planet. And I think that, yes, not everybody's going to necessarily relate to our own individual experiences on a detailed level. However, the energetics of being brought to our knees in what the fuck is happening right now, I don't even know where up and down is. And cultivating wisdom that is born from this place, this can relate to most people on the planet. Yeah. Specifically with where we're at with the collective consciousness. So I thought that this would just be a really timing conversation to have and to browse through some of the wisdom that was born, and also recognizing you've also gone through some pretty gnarly initiations and pretty gnarly activations recently that have really demanded you to stay at the altar. Yeah. And you have been somebody in my life that has brought me back to the altar. And what I mean by that is brought me back to the devotion, brought me back to the prayer, brought me back to sending up to something greater as opposed to just absorbing it from my own I being, but recognizing that this is a co-creation with the prayer. Yeah. And to come back to the prayer when the storm gets really heavy. And the candle on the altar for me has represented an anchor amidst the storm. So when everything seems to be washed inside out and upside down, and I don't know who I am and what I represent and what's my thing and what is happening right now, and all of my identities that I attached to are sort of starting to fall away. When the light is lit in the candle on the altar, this is a reference point, and this too is on time, and this too is perfect, and this too is part of the prayer, and this is part of the plan. And can you breathe into that and miss the storm? Yeah. And so Reggie Riverbear is the queen of altars.
Well, I don't know, but yeah,
well,
I love it.
Okay, you're not gonna say that for humble reasons, but I can.
All right.
And I will, and I have, and I will continue to say. But we were sitting earlier today, and we haven't seen each other for a good amount of time, and life has taken off on our own little adventures. But today we were sitting by the fire, and we got to stay with each other last night and like really connect in and share some snippets of our stories of what have happened. And then we did our morning practice together, and Reggie was sat by the fire, and she has this. It's not a small bag, fam. It's a large bag.
It's larger.
Like a laundry basket.
I think it actually might be a rainbow-colored laundry basket.
And I was like, it looks literally like a Mary Poppins bag of just the most magical things. I'm like, what's in that bag? You're like, oh, it's my altar bag. And it's literally like she could set up.
It needs
happily.
supports wheels like coming in.
At least 8 altars are in there.
You just never know what you're going to need when. And so I feel like it's better just to keep everything. I mean, I have like statues in my car of like Mother Mary and stuff. This is the constant walking prayer that you are. Because there's also people that I've spoken to that will be like, oh, I didn't have enough room in my bag for my altar stuff. Your conversation is, I didn't have enough room in my bag for clothes because of my altar stuff. Totally. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think because of everything that you just said about the world and life and everything is constantly happening. And I've just found that when I have that place, when there's that anchoring point and that like focus point, everything else can happen. But I know I'm safe and I know I'm focused into growth. And so for me, the altar is a representative of that. That being said, I was just in an Airbnb where they had a lot of smoke detectors. And so I had planned to I brought all my herbs and to do all my cleansing and my smudges. And I walked into the house and I'm like, oh, I didn't even really feel safe to light a candle. And it was actually beautiful because I realized wow, I have all this stuff and I have all these things that I love and I value and I take care of. And the real altar is inside of me, is inside my heart, is inside how I walk. So I love all the representations, but ultimately it's the outer practice that becomes the inner practice, right? So I feel like that's very much also what you're going to be sharing about.
Yes. Well, you said something that created a pivotal part of my experience, this huge initiation that I went through. Ultimately, you said to me, I missed this, and I'll return to this quote once I start the story. So there's nothing more powerful, Blue, than coming to the altar naked. And as somebody that's life's work is in the Gene Keys, my life's work is beauty with the gift of freshness. I love beautiful things. And what I mean by that is it's not expensive things necessarily. I do like fine quality things, but it's more so the focus on things that either hold a purpose or hold beauty in the space. If it doesn't have those two things, then it's not necessary in the space. And so I love to have beautiful clothes that support sustainable brands. And I love to, when my altar is set, it's full of color and flowers and beauty. This is the set. The freshness of that allows me to activate into my life's work of beauty. So whenever I pack to travel, I spend a long time packing because it's a ceremony for me. Everything's folded beautifully. Everything's clean. The whole house is reset and meticulous. This allows me to feel into the highest frequency, which then calls in more to emanate back into everything that I'm touching, which creates more beauty. And so there's something about me, packing and traveling for a trip. And I've got all my altar stuff, and I have my statues and all my beautiful new clothes, and I put it all in the bag, and then I don't have anything because the suitcase didn't arrive. And this is this is just one part of the initiation that I went through. But saying, hey, you can have all of the shamanic things and the tools and the beautiful clothes and the statues and the candles and the Palo Santo and everything that you want and your essential oils. But there's actually the most potent thing is recognizing that your prayer and your heart is the medicine.
Yeah.
So these are all just trinkets and additions.
Yeah. I think they're really important manifestations that either remind us of a certain energy or cultivate a certain energy or create an environment. But all of that ultimately, even from like doing yoga, like doing the asanas and doing the practices and doing the mantras, all of these have a real effect, but all of them are ultimately geared to creating inner wisdom and inner strength and inner beauty and inner radiance. And that then allows us to do the work that we do. So even though I find an altar very important physically to be present, and it's important to take care of your body and all these things, but it all leads back to, if all of that falls away, why are we doing that? What are you packing into your being so that you can walk in that way without any of it?
Yes.
So I think that's why Spirit gives us these moments like you're sharing with us, and like I had of like, oh, I can't smudge. It's like, all right, you don't need it. It helps us, but it is not the thing.
Yes. That starts me on my journey and my adventure.
Take us on a trip.
Ultimately came back to that truth.
Yeah.
So, backstory. I was invited to go out to Mexico for a leadership retreat. And leaders from all over the world coming together to create practical solutions with the power and the impact from the 3D to the 5D and beyond of how can we create a new algorithm around the healing of the planet with people that are real big game changers. And I was blessed enough to be invited to this space, which initially straight off the bat, feelings of inadequacy come up of like, like I sing and I play and I dance and I create and I make beautiful music and art and things, but like, I don't play at the level of these people playing at, so straight off the bat, it was a little bit like, okay, all right. Well, I wouldn't be given it if I couldn't handle it. So this is another opportunity to meet myself and a reflection of the potency and the magic and the power and what it is that I bring. So Ben and Azria invited me, and they're just two of, like, I would say a handful of people that have fully seen me, see me fully, and hold me in that. And they are two of them. And so when they invited me, I felt very honored. I felt very humbled by the invite. And as I was about to leave, I decided to make a large investment into my brand. And I had an opportunity to get the Instagram handle at Blu, BLU. Now, if you know anything about the world of Instagram, any Instagram handle that is less than 3 letters or 3 letters and less, is very difficult to get. Now, the actual Instagram handle at Blu is not active, but it's also not available. So it's somewhere in this cloud that I know nothing about and don't really understand. So it's someone can get it, but to pay for that individual to secure an Instagram handle of 3 letters or less is a large price. Now, Andre has been working with this individual for securing many Instagram handles because he has a production company. So he has been securing, different media handles for different people that he works with. So he's worked with this person multiple times and had very clean, fair exchanges. So I inquired, what would it look like for me to invest in my company and to claim the Instagram handle at Blu, which I feel like would be a step in the direction of really a reclamation of beauty, love, and unity in a really big way. So it brought up a lot of fear because it was like the largest investment I've ever made into my company ever. And simultaneously, I felt like that fear was an indication of, hey, you're finding an edge. And this is an opportunity for you to move beyond it. So I think I might have messed up my intuition and my fear as one thing. And I said, oh, well, it's just my fear that's happening. I'm going to actually do it. Because usually when fear shows up, that's for me the direction that I want to move in. So right as I was about to leave, I exchanged the money through Bitcoin. Now, because of Bitcoin, it's untraceable and you can't get it back.
Right.
So it's not like the central banking system when you do a wire transfer. So we decided to do it, through Bitcoin, and charged a large amount of money for this Instagram handle. And it felt like a step in the right direction for my brand and what it is that I'm building. Anyways, I was about to leave to go to Mexico. I had exchanged the money. Andre was taking care of it with this person. But for them to be able to exchange the Instagram over, they had to get into my account. They had to have access to my account. Now, because he's done this for multiple accounts prior, the trust had been built that this would be, would work out. Now, I'm literally about to take off. I'm about to turn my phone on airplane mode. I'm on the flight. And Andre sends me a message. He said that once he gets into the account, within 2 minutes, he'll be able to exchange the name over. And I'm on the airplane. I'm just sending my final text messages, and Andre sends me a message saying, "It's not looking good, Blue. It looks like this guy's done one over on us." And I was like, okay, what's happened? He goes, he's not responding. He hasn't responded for the last 30 minutes. He said it would take 2 minutes to exchange it over. He's changed all of everything from the inside of the account.
Wow.
So he's changed your email linked to the account. He's changed your password, and he's put the 2-time verification on it. So if somebody tries to get in, it also sends a verification code to the number that's linked to it. So it's like a double level of protection. It looks like, he's stolen the account. And then the voice note over the voiceover on the airplane is like, okay, now please make sure all electronic devices are switched off. We're about to take off. I'm sitting there with beads of sweat rolling down my armpit. I feel physically nauseous, and I have to turn my phone off, and there's nothing I can do about it, and sit on a 4-hour flight sitting with this new initiation that has presented itself. Now, my level of trust, even when the biggest contractions come up, is unwavering and has not disappeared in a long time. That has been, it's almost like somebody sitting there with a constant rattle or shaker that is just like, this is the pulse. Here it is. Here's the next level of medicine. Okay, so I'm sitting there and I'm writing in my journal everything that's coming up for me in the moment, because usually the closest to the emotion I am, that's where the medicine is found of how I'm responding to certain things in my life. And so my 31st year, a brand new journal, which Chelsea, my operations wizard and magical being, she hand painted this for me for my birthday, which is just so thoughtful and so amazing, and got me really thinking that you don't really have to spend a lot of money on somebody, but it's more so offering them your time. And the time that it took her to create this is really actually the greatest gift, because our time is our greatest gift. And so anyways, I had my brand new journal. I hadn't written in it yet, and I thought, well, what an amazing time to start my 31st year. I just had my birthday, and I'm going out to Mexico on this retreat, for this leadership retreat, and I have a brand new journal hand painted to me by my dear sister. And I thought, yeah, perfect. So anyway, I wrote in my journal, this is when it's happening. My 31st year, a brand new journal and an adventure awaits. But first, medicine. Because Reggie and I have this thing. Like, do you want to just share a little bit about like how anything that comes up is...
Anything that comes up in your life? Well, first and foremost, I think everybody who's on the path of awakening, I think one of the biggest mindset changes that we can make is to see everything as information. And then my favorite word is medicine. It's like anything that comes your way is medicine. It's not for you, not against you, just medicine for you to do something with. So whether it's like you're having a mental breakdown, it's like medicine. Or the most amazing thing happens in your day, is like medicine. All of it's medicine. So you got a big portion of medicine, a big dose of medicine. Yes,
exactly. And so here I am. I'm like, but first, medicine. I thought I took a huge risk before getting onto the flight, and I invested a large amount of money into upgrading my online presence for the @Blue handle. Turns out the man stole my Instagram, has stolen the money, and has stopped responding. So now everything goes up into the air. This is also linked with how I make my income, because it feeds into all of the different platforms that I have, is the antennas that go out, right? So for fluorescence, when we talk about a new round, it goes on my Instagram. If I have my podcast, it goes out through my Instagram. So I was also looking at how much I had given power to this one platform, which is also kind of scary in itself, that can go like that. There is someone holding the power of this, and I am like the puppet And if that just goes, if someone just decides to delete the account or someone hacks it or something happens, then there's a lot of power placed in that. And so that really got me looking deeper at the power that I have given this platform. I also, I wrote, when I found out I started to feel sick, like physically sick, I'm sweating, I felt violated and vulnerable. I felt the power of my Instagram account. I felt the power that my Instagram account has over me. And it almost felt unsafe in my own identity. And then that's when and that's where the problem is. My identity has been formed around an Instagram page. My identity is in the hands of those living for profit and not living for life. Because actually the owners of Instagram and the owners of Facebook, and these big corporations, they're not actually creating these structures that support life to thrive. They're creating these structures to benefit off of our attention. They profit off of our attention. And so how do they create a thing that can get as much of our attention as possible? It's not for life, it's for profit. So I had a moment of sitting with, I've given so much power to a machine that is not for life. And the fact that there is a woven part of my identity placed outside of myself, medicine. So I really got to sit with, this is an important initiation for me. This is really important. I've been on Instagram for the past, 10 since 2016 or beyond, a long time. And I have just slowly been building this level of trust with people, and simultaneously I keep needing to check in with how I'm using it, or is it using me? Because it's the same thing with the mind. The mind is a lousy master and an amazing servant. And the same thing with Instagram. It's a lousy master and an amazing servant.
Yeah.
So
if it's used as a tool and stayed in that place as a tool. I heard somebody say the other day, like, Instagram is not your income. Like, it's not your business. So make sure that you funnel it to a place that is your business.
Yeah.
And it was so good to hear that, because I think, you're not alone in that. So many people have, like, Instagram as the main platform because it is a community and because all the beautiful elements are there as well that you've so incredibly cultivated and used. And yet, like you said, it's not ours. It's owned by somebody who does not have our most high interest. So it's good to become aware of that. Okay, it can be a funnel. It can be a beautiful tool and a cultivation place to send it into the next realm, which is your own creation. Whatever that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, a recalibration wants to happen. So it only took about 30 minutes of like, oh God, it's all going down. And actually going, okay, there's medicine, there's a recalibration, there's a redistribution of power that wants to happen here. And so I put, then I got a flash of purpose in it all. What I have allowed to consume my attention, I have given my greatest spiritual currency something that uses me like a battery. It wants my attention. It profits off of my attention. And my attention is here to be used in service to humanity, not to a machine. Money will come and go. I make money because of who I am and what I have unlocked. Money will always find its way to me. My Instagram was slowly ripping me from my attention. This is a blessing. This is a gift. I trust. May my full spirit return to me, and may my attention return to me. May I always walk in grace, even when life seems very confronting. I had 4 hours of just like on the plane. Okay. So I got to the place of like, if I can make peace with all timelines that are happening, when the true power is restored, true internal power. Right. Now, if I try and avoid one timeline because it's too uncomfortable, then I'm still leaking my power. So I decided to go into the timeline where the Instagram account was gone forever. And I sat with it, and there was this little existential kink inside of me that was like, oh, that feels good. No more Instagram, full attention. Let's go. Yeah. There was this other side of me that was like, oh, but my community, like the people that follow the podcast and listen to the podcast and share the podcast and connect with me through my DMs. And like, these are real humans with real beautiful hearts that I have found brothers and sisters within. Right. You know, this is a community that has been built and takes time and patience and trust and love to be cultivated. And there was like a sadness. There was a mourning around that for me. And then I got to the airport. I hadn't been broken yet. Like I wasn't crying. I hadn't been like cracked open. I was like, okay, I found some medicine in this. I trust. Get to the airport. I turn my phone back on. Andre's messaging me saying that this person that's hacked into my account is now trying to extort me for $15,000 to get the account back. On top of the money that he already stolen. I'm like, you mother lover. What? Are you kidding me? Then he got a hold of my phone number through the Instagram account from the inside because my phone number is linked to it on private. And he was WhatsApping me screenshots of my account from the inside saying, lovely account. Thank you.
Oh,
like,
creepy.
Trying to rub salt in the wound.
Ooh, I feel that in my belly.
And I was like, I'm not giving him a single word. Not until it's coming from a place of love. And it's definitely not in that place right now. I'm pissed. So I'm standing at my baggage carousel waiting for the bag to come out. And this is all happening, and I'm just like, we'll find a way. There's gonna be a blessing in this. I know I'm on it, babe. Like gosh, I love that human so much. He showed up for me.
Yes, we love you, Andre.
Andre, come on,
come on.
We love him. So he's like, we've got a whole team working on it. Like we'll make it happen. So I'm waiting, and then all of a sudden, all the bags get picked up, and it's just when like the tumbleweed just rolls across the floor, and I'm like, yeah, my bag's not here. How? It's a direct flight. How does the bag not make the flight? It was direct, So I go to the counter. No one's at the counter. They're like, oh, someone will be there shortly. I'm standing at the counter for an hour, and at this point I crack. I'm like, because also everyone's wearing masks, and my hearing aids are in my suitcase. And so I can't hear. We're also in Mexico, so everyone's got an accent. I can't hear anything that's going on around me. People are talking at me, and I have no idea what's going on. Everything that's going down with the social media, the money that has been stolen, and I haven't got anything but the clothes on my back. So at this point, I'm texting you.
Dark night of the soul.
I'm going down, man. I'm going down. I'm not okay. Like, usually I'm okay, Like,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
I wasn't okay in that moment. I felt like I just wanted the ground to swallow me up, and I wanted to just disappear into the abyss of nothingness. That was when, circling back to what you said to me, there was many things that you said to me in that moment, but you have such a profound way of being able to say the things that an acknowledgement of what is happening and how challenging it is, while simultaneously holding the pillar of my higher self. And what did you say to me?
I said, there's nothing more powerful than coming to the altar naked.
And I was in Mexico for a prayer, for a retreat, to come to the altar.
Yeah.
To be a student of the altar.
Yeah.
And I had nothing really besides my heart. And there's a song that Brianna would sing in ceremony sometimes, and it goes like, my heart is the only thing I have. My heart is the only thing I have. My heart is the only thing I have. And that was ringing in the background. And it's like, okay, this is it.
Here we are.
And the retreat center was 2 hours from the airport. Perfect.
Obviously.
So, and I asked him when the bag would arrive, and he said, it's tough to say, but in a couple of days. So I just left the airport, and I met up with Ben and Azria, and I just crumbled in their arms, and and they held me, and it was just a moment of just like, okay. So I'm on my way to the retreat center.
I'm so glad you were with friends.
Yeah.
Like there was such a moment of like helplessness to know that you were by yourself in an airport having a meltdown. And I'm texting Andre. I'm like, did you hear from Blue? Is she okay? Did she get in a taxi? Is she being picked up? And there was like crickets. I'm like, what? Please take care of my girl. And then I got a message from Andre that you were in the car with Azria and Ben. I'm like, all right. Even when everything is gone, you're still taken care of, right?
Yes. Yeah. I felt so taken care of
Mhm.
amidst everything that was happening. And in the car ride, Azria, I believe, is somebody that is the keeper of integrity,
Mm.
Dharma,
Mm.
and anything that's just slightly out of integrity, she will speak into it.
Mm.
Now we're in the car ride, and I feel so broken and raw and vulnerable and violated, because my account is in the hands of all of my messages, all of my connections is in the hand of what felt like the energetics of a parasite.
Right.
And I'm in the car ride, and Azria and I have a chat, and she points out a piece around integrity for me. Now, I'm all about feedback.
Mm.
I love it. It's the way that I grow.
Right.
In that moment, I don't know if I could take any more. And she shared with me a piece that and literally made me feel physically sick.
Mm.
And I was sitting in the car, and I held her hand so that she knows I love you and thank you. But right now I have nothing to say.
No.
And I just sat and I just looked out of the window and just wept for hours. Then I eventually get to the retreat center, and unbeknown to myself, I'm put in a room with 3 other people that I don't know. And when I saw that I was put in a room with 3 other people, all I wanted to do was cry all night. I just wanted to have a space that I could close the door and, go, and let the energy move through. But when I'm in a room with other people that I don't know, I'm going to quietly sniffle under the blanket and try and be as quiet as possible while keeping everyone awake. I broke again, and I was like, and they're all doing like a meet and greet experience, and I'm in the bathroom like, why? What is happening? I can't hear anyone.
Oh.
Also, because when I travel, the air pressure in my ears, it takes a day or two for me to recalibrate my equilibrium of my ears. So I couldn't hear anyone. And I'm supposed to be in this meet and greet, and my face is all puffy and red. I just don't want to see anybody. So I go and get some food, and I get a bowl of soup. And this is super unlike me. I hardly ever purge in ceremony. Outside of ceremony, throwing up is not something that is very common for me. And I ate like a couple of mouthfuls of the soup, and I was like, I need to remove myself from the group dynamics. And I went to a room on my own, and I threw up everything. I threw up like 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And I had fasted all day. I hadn't eaten anything all day. And I was throwing up, and I was like, I think that throwing up is a byproduct of rejecting what's happening. Now, my dear brother reached out to me, Aubrey, and he sent me a message, and he said, Blue, usually if you're about to go through a huge activation, you've got to crack off the old shell. And to crack a shell requires a stockpiling of events for it to crack. Yeah. If it was just the account, it wouldn't have cracked. If it was just the money, it wouldn't have cracked. If it was just the bag, it wouldn't have cracked. If it was just the room, it wouldn't have cracked. But it had to be money, account, extortion, violation, suitcase, hearing, space, vomiting.
Vomiting.
Crack. So raw and so cracked open. But my higher self was saying, well, if the pendulum swings one way, all the way far into the, what the fuck is happening? It has to swing of equal measure to the other side.
Yeah.
And
I'm thinking about the gene keys and how the gene keys of epiphany and how
with the shadow of deafness.
With the shadow of deafness, and how the epiphany, the difference between ahas and epiphanies is the emotional impact piece. And the part where when we get presented with what you got presented with like, it like enters the core of your being. It's almost an immediate upgrade, even though we're experiencing as like a demise or a falling away, but there's such a radical emotional impact that's being made that it instantly transform whatever was that needed to be there, versus like 100 like aha moments, and then you have to integrate the ahas and like walk this whole path where the epiphany just like fucking lightning strikes you, ow, and only thank you.
the medicine of the lightning now.
Oh my goodness, because you're immediately naked. And
Yeah.
so God can immediately fill you with more beauty and more purpose and more light if we can like breathe into that peace. But ow. Ow. All of it.
So I said something to the coordinators, and I said, please, I cannot be in a room with other people right now. I'm really, really in a tender place. I feel I just need to lick my wounds tonight and just be with myself. And so they took me to a new room, which was, of course, the tower. It was an actual tower. They call it the tower. And if you know anything about tarot, what does the tower card represent?
It represents the falling away of the old, the breaking down, the death of Babylon.
Straight up.
And the card is like the tower that's falling over, and there's people like
flames.
falling out, and there's flames, and there's lightning, and it just looks like a situation you would never want to be in.
Exactly. And I went to sleep and woke up the next morning. And if you are somebody that has experienced a moon cycle, aka a period, I woke up the next day 2 weeks early on a full moon on my moon. And for me, day one of my moon is don't be around anybody, stay in bed, eat some yummy foods, just be. And I get a lot of back pain and womb pain. So I woke up the next morning. I didn't even have a change of underwear. I didn't have a toothbrush. I didn't have a change of underwear. I had nada. I did have a lot of people that were, hey, you can borrow. Like, don't worry about it. We've got everything taken care of. We'll take care of you. And so I managed to salvage a toothbrush and I asked for some underwear and some tampons and just take care of and it was the day one of the retreat. Now, just before I went on my retreat, for my birthday, Kyra, who is the author of the Sophia Code, gifted me this bracelet. And this is the reason why I chose this bracelet is because it's the same bracelet that you have. And on the inside of this bracelet, it says, now, this is the first time I've ever worn it. Divine Mother of all life, take me to that place deep within your womb where I can know nothing and be reborn anew. Now, I know how powerful this bracelet is going to be.
Well.
Yeah. Right on time. I have nothing.
And I think it specifically says nothing, but it says
no
it has a space. So it says no thing.
So here I am with no thing. Bleeding. Broken. With no ears. Because in a retreat situation, it's a room full of people and everyone's sharing one by one. Now, I don't hear what's going on without my hearing aids, and that's why I have them specifically for these spaces. So before my bag arrived, 3 days of the experience out of a week was spent in which had me face off with a part of myself that I am not worthy to be in this space unless I'm contributing something. That me just sitting there in silence in a room full of game changers was not enough. The no thing. To come to the altar with nothing. While at the same time receiving screenshots from the hacker of my personal conversations through my DMs and writing to these people pretending to be me. Inappropriate requests, inappropriate messages. He sent to one of my sisters a whole series of eggplant emojis.
Wow.
What are you doing? I would never. Good night.
And hopefully the people
the people were buying it. There was only one person that were like, "Blue, you okay?" But beside that, like after I had to do some cleanup. But that's a part of the story. And I said, November 20th, the day that will be the one hard to forget. My bag got lost, so I feel fragile and weak. I threw up 3 times after eating some soup. I wept so hard after realizing I was put in a room with 3 other people. And today I have been humbled beyond belief. My heart is so tender. I woke up bleeding at 2 weeks early. So this is how I entered into it.
And your little broken hearts. Oh, honey. Sad face.
I put a broken heart. My heart was broken. I felt broken.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
flawed. So I have an opportunity to start over from scratch, a blank slate, a blank canvas. I have been given all of the connections, all of the resources, and all of the support. Oh no, if I was given all of the connections, all the resources, and all of the support, what would my service to the world be? How can I best be of service to more people? This was the question that I came in from nothing. How can I best be of service to more people? And Richard Rudd on the Prosperity Podcast talked about, if the only thing we ask every single day is please use me to be a best service, and how can I be a best service, then we are already in alignment with the Dharma. And so this is a really powerful, if I start from scratch, the only question I have, please use me to be the greatest service to the whole.
Right.
I trust. So then I drew my trusty lion, because the lion has the courage to trust in everything, and the spirit of the lion. What's the lion represent to you?
Royalty, but royalty in the sense of just the embodiment of pure, healthy confidence, courage, and leadership. And that like unwavering knowing to go forth and to lead into the sun.
Yeah. So I was drawing this, and then I looked up, and the facilitator of the experience was wearing a lion ring, and I was like, there was always breadcrumbs this whole time. Oh, that reminds me, another breadcrumb. So when I arrived to the retreat, there was a sister there that turned to me. She goes, I've sat in a circle with you before in Mexico. You're dear friends with Reggie.
Oh.
And she said your name, and that was my little breadcrumb that said, hey, everything's right on time. You're good. You're taking care of. The angels are all around you. And I was like, oh, and I hugged her, and I just wept in her arms. I'm like, thank you for saying that. Like, I wasn't expecting to hear your name at this retreat from somebody that I didn't really know.
I was so good because I was trying to like astral project myself so hard to you. I'm like, please send me to Mexico. Please send me to Mexico.
You did.
And then Jimena showed up, and she was like, hey, I'm here to represent you. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, Spirit. Thank you.
It was...
Oh, I just wanted to give you a hug, and then somebody was there in my name to give you a hug.
You gave me a hug in that moment. I really felt it was you.
It was.
It was amazing. Anyway, so I can't talk about necessarily what happened in the retreat, because that is a closed container in the sacredness of it. And so I'm honoring the sacredness of the retreat itself. However, the theme of what I experienced was, when the machines take over our attention, how do we get our attention back? And I thought, couldn't have been a better theme for everything that was happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, the first night or the second night that I was in the tower, the electricity went out, and there was a thunderstorm.
Like in the tarot card. Dark and lightning.
It's dark. I have one little light candle, my journal, nothing with me besides some borrowed knickers.
Well.
They were actually red and lacy. Quite lovely. I was like, oh,
hello.
Thanks, sweetheart.
Hello. Thank you, sweetheart.
And I wrote strong thunder, no belongings, no warm water. There was no warm water in the tower. It was all cold water. Just me in my tower, just me and my prayer. I've been stripped down to bare minimals, no makeup, no hair products, no shamanic tools, just trust and a deep understanding that I am the medicine. My intention is to come to naked to the altar, to be a humble student, and to receive guidance to how I can best be of service online without it taking over my attention and my focus. And then this is something that I got from, the emails that from the universe.
Yeah.
What's really beautiful? Confidence. What's really powerful? Persistence. What's sexy? Not needing to be needed.
Breathing it in. Well, it is, isn't it?
I read that 10 times. I was like, that's amazing. And I thought, to love myself with nothing but myself, my release all judgment for my own process, my surrender into the arms of grandmother and grandfather, and hold on with a loose grip. And so I just was at nothing. And from that,
and so were you in your clothes that you had worn in the airport?
I wore the clothes that I wore at the airport for 3 days.
That's pretty legit.
And I didn't have a warm shower in my room.
Wow.
So every time I would jump in the water, it was like and then put back the airport clothes on.
Yikes. That's a whole nother level of surrender. Bleeding. Right. Yo.
I can't hear anything.
It's so good though, even though it's
so
like grimy and especially in ceremony, like everything is so amplified, right? And all the energies and like what you wear and what you don't wear, and how humbling.
Humbling was an understatement.
Yeah.
I felt like it just everything that I had created and accumulated in the consciousness of who I think that I am was smeared away. And there's something so beautiful in that.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, truly.
I want to ask you about the pivot moment, but I don't know if we're there yet in the story.
Well,
so I don't want
we actually
run
are.
ahead. All right.
So it was a medicine retreat. And the first ceremony, I brought all of this. That was my intentions going in, just to come naked to the altar and how I could best be of service. And the pivotal moment for me was when I asked to understand a deeper level of like, why is this happening? I have an ability. It's in my gene keys. It's my purpose. Is empathy. And the frequency of empathy is not to just be like, oh, I feel you. Empathy is to go into the consciousness of another being and to see through their eyes for a moment. That's when we can truly understand their emotional process and truly have compassion for their greatest challenges. So I hadn't empathized with the hacker at this point. I had just been like, what the fuck, bro? What are you doing? Oh my God, you must be in a lot of pain. But I actually on the first night went into his consciousness and I looked through his eyes and I saw him as a child having a very tough life, a very scarce life of survival, and how this is what he's done to survive. And the greed of it has taken over in that process. And I saw his consciousness. I had a very small window. It was like this big of his ability to love. But him being in my account, going through all of my archived pictures, he started posting photos of me and my past lover from 3 years ago on my stories. Brutal. He went through all my archived photos. He went through all of my messages. He's in the inside of an account, which the pure default is love and support. And so he only needed a small window to allow some of that love to infiltrate into his consciousness. And I saw the amount of gifts that were born from this being a thing. The gifts of my attention coming back, my spiritual currency being my attention, and how much attention was I giving to a machine that does not support life, while utilizing it as a tool but not allowing it to use me, to redistribute my resources across multiple, or my funnel across multiple platforms. Also, what this did was my relationship with my parents, which I have spoken about previously on the podcast. It reignited a conversation with my father. And my father found out that my account was hacked. He saw how long I've been building my platform for and reached out and put an arm out and said, like, I don't want to see this happening to you. How can I support? So this hack also rekindled the relationship with my father, who has been one of my best friends, and I've missed him terribly. and it rekindled that conversation. I also saw how it has given me a deeper level of discernment and trusting my intuition on certain things. And so that night where I had my altar, there was nothing on my altar. It was completely blank. I didn't have all of my goodies that I usually put on the altar. It was just a candle and a mapacho. That was it.
Perfect.
It was amazing. And I came down to the altar and I put my hands on the altar cloth and I looked and stared directly into the flame. And I saw the divine intervention of why this has all had to happen the way that it did. Yeah. And I stood there and I said, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I send you love to that individual that is hurting and has so much pain inside of your heart and your being. I send you love. And I saw myself, because I hadn't responded to any of his WhatsApp messages, I saw myself just responding saying, I love you. And pattern interrupt his whole system. Like, guy, why didn't even know how to process this, you know? Usually, like, my ego would have been like, oh, you fucked with the wrong priestess. Yeah, you know, like, but like, if I just responded with, I love you. Yeah. And I read this card. I pulled this card before the ceremony. No enemy shall defeat me. I am divinely protected and empowered. I will fulfill my destiny with joy in my heart and laughter in my belly. Play, be in nature, feel the freedom of happiness in every given moment. These are my sacred powers. And I am here to stir up old energy and activate my vital presence, to drum, to sing, to dance, to chant, to go into sorcery, into medicine. I have been tested to maintain a higher state of consciousness amidst some of the greatest challenges. I am she who lifts darkness. And this is just a deeper invitation to explore a more authentic relationship with myself.
Amen.
And when I genuinely was like, thank you, oh my gosh, this has activated the next level of my expansion. This is good medicine. And I genuinely, on the core of my being, was in thank you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, okay, you have maintained your higher frequency amidst the storm. You will receive your account back tomorrow and your bag will arrive within the hour. And I was like, okay, let's go. And I was like, genuinely felt that timeline unlock. And then the next morning I woke up and turned my phone on. Andre messaged, we secured the account back. And then within an hour, knock, 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 Ben and Azria came and delivered my bag. And I was like, wow.
It's real.
Exactly. That was confirmation that it's real. It's real for me in my experience and my lens and my perspective of this life.
And what you said this morning in our conversation, which I love, which I feel really comes into this moment, is what you were saying, and maybe you want to say it again, about that you can't fake it, you can't lie to the universe, right? It doesn't speak English, it speaks energy. So it's going to know exactly where you are and where you're not, so that you were able to reach like genuine gratitude and genuine forgiveness and genuine love and genuine celebration even of this like catastrophe moment that was a medicine moment. And you were able to lock really genuinely into that. It immediately changes the physical reality.
Right.
Immediately. Like, all right, in 2 hours, bring her back. Like, it's real. We're witnessing it real time, all the time. And this is such a powerful example of that.
And whether we're in medicine space, whether we are, ultimately, this is all one big medicine space. It's one big, huge ceremony. We have the power to collapse the timelines through our energy contribution and conversation in every given moment. And that we are always consciously or unconsciously manifesting through our energy input into the situation at hand. So that level of trust, that level of forgiveness, that level of compassion unlocks so much in our lives always.
Yeah.
This was just a great test. However, the tests are always presenting themselves, just like you said, when you bring a laundry bag full of laundry basket full of ulcer stuff, because you don't know what test will present itself. So you have the offerings and the herbs and the different things, the amulets that represent certain things that allow that to be unlocked in that moment.
Yeah.
So the next day, when I got my bag, it felt like when I opened the bag, there was like doves that flew out, and the angels were like, ah!
Light shone from the suitcase.
And I had all my things, all of my altar stuff and my beautiful clothes. And I was so grateful to just have a toothbrush that you can imagine the level of gratitude I had when I opened my bag. Something that I would have just been like, oh, my bag's arrived, unpack. Now I was like, oh, and I have this. Oh, and I forgot I packed that. And then I put my hearing aids in and I went back into the circle. And my attention for the rest of the retreat, unwavering. Because what everyone was saying was so precious to me because I had the opportunity to hear it. I didn't want to miss a word. My body was tired. I needed more sleep, but my attention was unwavering. And I got to meet a version of myself with someone that has double distraction in my gene keys to meet the double intoxication on the other side of it, which was intoxicated by the wisdom and the information that was coming through. I got to receive the gratitude, what it means to actually be present to someone's wisdom and the gift that is. Because people are sponges and an accumulation of wisdom that they've curated for their whole lives. And when someone speaks, that is a gift. And to be able to hear it, that's a gift. Yeah. So my journal filled with wisdom and insights that came through these people. It took me 3 days of not hearing what was going on in the space to then really be in the appreciation for when someone speaks, listen. And that was another piece of medicine that I received. Felt like it was the answer to all of my prayers that I didn't know I needed.
I mean, even just that piece with your journey, with your hearing, is so profound, because just that little medicine sentence, if you run with that, can change your life. Right? Because we speak about listening a lot, and of course you do a lot because of the different levels that you've gotten to explore, from not always having your ears work with you, but having this heart ears listening and reading. And so, wow, to get 3 days of like breakdown, to come even deeper into this conversation that you have in your life around listening and really soaking it up and like locking in with full presence. Just even that is so profound.
Gift after gift after gift after gift after gift. Because the pendulum's now swinging in the opposite direction, right? It really was humbling to my core. Okay, so this is all just from exercises that we did. So, and then, so for the second night, to feel the freedom of happiness in every given moment, to allow my song to penetrate any darkness, to explore a more authentic relationship with myself, to understand how best to utilize my healing gifts. Part of my sacred purpose is to heal economic and financial matters, to create and share prosperity with others from a place of inner spiritual security.
Can you say that again, please? Slow her down. Really deliver it.
A part of my sacred purpose is to heal economic and financial matters, to create and share prosperity with others from a place of inner spiritual security.
Mic drop.
That came from a card from the Earth Warriors deck.
It's juicy.
From Alana Fairchild. And to focus on what brings me joy, purpose, and passion and devotion. To focus on putting my beautiful beliefs out into the world. because my true worth is a matter of soul.
Did you? I know, I'm like soaking it up. And this just leading back to how you started the conversation of feeling like, what are you contributing in a space? True purpose
It's a matter of soul.
is a matter of soul. Did it take you the 3 days to like flip that script into coming home into that knowing?
And to feel worthy in the space.
Yeah.
Because our soul is an accumulation of all of the times that we have dared to feel and to find the medicine on the other side. And it creates this very rich experience.
Mm.
And that richness cannot be fully received if one does not give oneself permission to believe that
Right.
the medicine is within.
Do you feel like, hypothetically, say your Instagram account didn't come back and your suitcase didn't come back and your hearing aids didn't come back and you spent that whole retreat naked? Do you feel you would have gotten to the same place of feeling that worth, even without the treats from the universe of like, because it's in a way also validation, right? You're doing good. Now we're giving you something back. So in a way, it's still kind of that like reward system. Do you feel you would have gotten to that like, I am enough without the rewards coming?
I believe so.
I believe so.
Because I made peace with them not coming back before they did.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Like if I really have to start from scratch, there's something really liberating in that. It's like this head shave when I shaved my head. There was something so liberating in energetically starting from scratch. And there's the existential kink within that too. And then the starting from scratch with my closet. Okay, well then I'll make sure that everything I purchase is of the most integrity with the quality and supporting small businesses on Etsy and you know. And then when it came to the hearing aids, I'll just upgrade my hearing aids and I'll just get some ones that are even, you know, finer quality ones. Like there was always a part of me that felt like I couldn't lose once I had surrendered to none of it coming back.
Right.
Letting it completely go.
I wonder, one of the things that we also talk about in fluorescence and what this moment is, and something that I've also had really powerful experiences with, is this giving back of things, right? Okay, I give back my account, I give back my beloved, I give back whatever the thing is that feels like it's being taken or being given away. And that moment of surrender, which is like, maybe it can have some leading up to it, but it's truly just one moment, right? It's like, all right, I surrender. And I've witnessed you doing that a time and time and time and time again in different measures and different situations. But there's this trust that you've cultivated and a courage that you've cultivated to be able to get to that point, even when it feels like everything's falling away. Which on this path, it will happen over and over and over again, because it's that clearing of the attachments.
Yeah.
Right? What do you feel is the one thing that allows you to have that moment? Because I feel that specific quality, I'm going to call it courage, but I feel it's more rich than just that. But for the lack of this, the lion heart, courage piece. I feel that if every single human on this planet had a dose of that, it would eliminate so much suffering, because it allows us to penetrate into a next level of purpose and of surrender, and then getting to experience the bliss and the alignment and the strength that waits on the other side of that moment. What do you feel is, if there's one thing to say about what gives you that knowing or the courage or the trust, even when you don't know what's waiting on the other side? Like if somebody's listening and they don't feel that courage, there's always the like, I should, but right? The pulling back. What would you say is like the one thing that has helped you to constantly come back to that altar, to that moment, to that yes?
My Mayan signature is the blue cosmic eagle. And the eagle medicine is to zoom way out and to see the intricacies of how everything has played out and how everything will play out. And so in the past, a lot of my medicine has been zooming out and to see, oh, I went to this school and I felt this with this teacher, but then this unlocked this later down the line. And and this happened with this ex-lover and I thought he was the one and I really wanted him to be the one, but he wasn't the one in the moment and he cheated on me and I couldn't understand why. But now looking, he was not supportive of my path and this was not supposed to be the one. So of course this woman had to come in and create this. And when I got this, the candida, and the candida felt like, what the heck is happening to me, and I can't have all of these foods and I have to be restrictive. But actually what it was doing was inviting me into a deeper level of actually having knowledge around nutrition and the levels of what the body needs, and learning how to listen to my body, and learning how in one day it may be this and then the next day I may not have something else. But the candida was the thing that allowed me to actually realize how to have a conversation with my body, which is so important. The hearing loss and what happened has activated me to trickle me into the realm of feeling, which has now catapulted me into the shamanic realm of truth. And now this is where my service lies. And the amount of things that have been catastrophic that have led to profound gifts, and the intricacy, I see it like a painter painting the most exquisite painting. And when the painter, is putting on the layers and the next layer and then the next layer, and it gets, 6 months into the painting, and then it's like the most intricate detail. That's how I see my life. In the moment, it doesn't look like the shape because it's the base layer, but it's also a layer that is contributing to this exquisite piece of artwork. And so if 100% of the time up until this point, it has worked out in my favor, why would I stop trusting now just because I can't see it? So it has been a life's work just to cultivate this trust. This doesn't happen overnight, but this is what the path of devotion is. This is what it means to come to the altar. This is what it means to come to the prayer. This is what it means to light the candle and not move it because it's holding the anchor. And so everything now from this point of saying I trust, right? I wrote in my journal, I trust on the airplane. Okay. Do you really trust? Do you trust now? Do you trust now? And if the answer is yes, then the dawn of the sun comes up sooner, and the dark night of the soul doesn't last as long. I believe that the journey to self-awareness is not that shit doesn't hit the fan. It will for the rest of our lives. How long those periods of time last depends on either the resistance or the softening and surrendering. And in the moment where it seems like everything is going on quote unquote wrong, that is where the spiritual growth happens. The consistency of the inner riches is found on the yoga mat and in the sadhanas and the practices and the mantras and the mudras and whatever else in the spiritual practice. But the actual evolution of consciousness happens in the what the fuck moments.
It's all bullshit until it's tested in the fire.
Which I have said so many times.
Best quote.
It's not technically the word for word quote from the I Ching.
It's definitely not. It's paraphrased by me. But I've been trying to look for it, and once I figure out which one it actually is, I'll let you know. But it's so true. It's so true. And this piece is why I feel you're able to do what you're doing in this world, is because you have that ability to face the things that are not comfortable, that are not beautiful, that are not celebratory of like how wonderful we think we are. It's like when we get presented with real life or with situations that trigger something out of us, there's only two choices, right? One is you can have the lion heart and you can look at it in the eye and say, okay, fucking teach me. Or you can reject it as something that's other, as something that's against, and you'll stay in the same place for the rest of your life. And that loop or the non-loop is the only thing that's going to make a difference in if you're cultivating strength, if you're cultivating trust, if you're cultivating the very thing that actually enables us to shine brighter so that we get to be of service. And the other choice will always keep you in the same place. And maybe there's a lot of like nice ego feeding in that place, but it will never move you forward. And so that, what you just said about the zooming out and your ability to do that, I hope that everybody applies that to their own life. Like how in Fluorescence, we talked about the storytelling of your own life, right? Looking at your timeline of all the facts that have happened in your life, and then having the opportunity to tell a sob story, because some stories, yeah, the situations are sad and I wouldn't wish them upon anybody, but taking the emotion out and just saying, okay, these are the facts and this led to that, and then using it as an opportunity to see the blessings of where it took you. That ability, that quality, anybody can cultivate, right? I really feel like that's a choice, that once we're aware of the choice, because we're not, maybe not raised aware of it, but we are, we can become. And that's something that I see in you, and that's something that I hear in your story. And I think that's also part of the reason why people are drawn to you, is because you're able to reflect the choice of seeing beauty, the choice of making a new choice, of not being scared to leave behind an identity or an idea or a person or a place, because you can see the bigger picture. And I just heard somebody say about the breadcrumbs. They were like, you can only,
About the what?
the breadcrumbs, that you can only ever know from looking backwards what got you to this moment. And that's where you can cultivate the trust. And that's, it's so true.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for being a representation of that, because it's a big medicine for this time, because so many people are suffering and hurting, and there's lots of stories of heartbreaking and people dying or suppression, everything that's happening in our world. And even amidst everything, you're creating beauty. You're choosing to tell a story of empowerment. You're choosing to raise the vibration when somebody enters into your field that could have completely taken you down, who's coming into your personal realm and sending you messages, and everyone you love. There's so much opportunity for that story to be told in a whole nother light. And yet your purpose allows you, and all the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis allows you to become a representation of what the medicine really looks like. It's like, all right, I take this medicine, I take this information, and what am I going to do with it? You're in a place where you can make that conscious choice, and you choose beauty over and over and over again. And it's really epic. And it's really something that I respect so much in you. And I think it's incredible that your platform keeps growing, because this is the medicine that's really going to help a lot of people move through what we're moving through in this world. And it's not about anything other than you're making a choice to go for the light, to go for the beauty, without denying anything that's happening and not overriding. It's a true alchemy. It's an alchemical process, right? We see the information, we see the medicine, we take it in, you let it move through your body, you feel it, and then you enter into making a choice of the frequency that you want to bring here to the planet. So thank you.
Give out that acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that I want to put an emphasis around. Choice. There is a gap between what happens and how we respond. And in that gap is where our power lies. Even if it seems like we're powerless in the situation, the choice of response is where the power lies.
Yeah.
And if we can just acknowledge that gap for a moment and to let it breathe before the response and the story is placed in that overlay of what is happening, we have the power to shift the situation. And this is everybody's responsibility in life. Now, whether we take that responsibility or we become the victim of circumstance, that's our choice. But everyone does have a choice of how we respond. to whatever it is that life presents us.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with my hearing and my brother also having it at the same time. We both were given choices and we chose different choices.
Mm.
We chose different responses. We chose different life's work based off of. It's not a right and a wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just only us that then get to live the consequence of those choices.
Right.
And how that works out for us is determined on how we experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So my commitment, and multiple times throughout the retreat, it came back to what my commitment is. What is my commitment? Come to the altar and share your commitment. My commitment is for my presence and every piece of content that I create to remind others that their greatest challenge is also their greatest gift, and it is a choice.
Mm.
And that we do have the power. And may that be laced into everything that I create through the initiations that I vulnerably share on here, because when I open my journal, this is so sacred to me. And I post online, and this opens myself up to judgment. This opens myself up to people writing some really nasty things online. For the majority, it's just beautiful things. I've actually stopped reading the comments now, for the most part. However, for me, if I am being able to share my greatest challenges in the most vulnerable way, that could then support another to feel empowered in their choice when life happens, my work is done. And it is worth 1 million haters plus one, because it's part of my dharma, of why I have been given the gift of being able to articulate myself in a certain way, just like you have. There's a reason for that. And it's not to play small and hide and like, oh, I don't want to share because oh no, I've been given this gift. Okay, what's it to be utilized for? Media is medicine. Well, what's medicine in media? Authenticity, radical authenticity, truth, vulnerability, real of whatever is alive. And then that gives a permission slip in a world of illusions.
Yeah.
Where it's very difficult to even believe what is going on with the media right now. Like, do I even know if this is even real? Or is this a fabricated story that's keeping me in a frequency of fear? Or is this a place that I can plug into and allow my spirit and my heart to soften, recognizing there's something bigger playing here, and my responsibility is to show up and trust. And here's somebody that's doing it.
Yeah.
And so there is an internal ping pong match that goes, hey, is this the ego that is sharing and talking about this and putting my makeup on and showing up in a certain way in my beautiful set? Or is this needed? And my teacher shared with me, I don't know what is truth, but I know what love feels like. I was like, feels like love.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is my ego or if this is a certain version of myself. I don't know. But it feels like love.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to keep following that.
Yeah. I love it. And it can be both. I think, the ego gets a bad rep because it gets us into trouble. But at the same time, another thing that I'm learning from you is to utilize beauty and physicality and that part, which is the healthy ego, right? That enables you to be in the public eye, that enables you to be comfortable in dressing up beautifully and creating all this magic to bring people into. But like we talked about with Instagram, it's a tool. And it's fun, and like we get to feel our most beautiful self, like it's all the things. But even within that, and I love, and I've known you for 6 or 7 years, and so I've witnessed you in this journey of utilizing your beauty, utilizing your sassiness, utilizing your sexuality in a beautiful way to create magnetism that leads people into the depths of their own being.
Mm.
So it is a dance of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we can keep that everything in the right place, Instagram in the right place, our physical beauty in the right place, our depth in the right place, then everything is like harmonious
Mm-hmm.
together. And that creates beauty and that creates love. And that's that feeling of like, it's all here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you're all that for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful.
Mm.
What else, Bluebean? What else is in your magic book?
Well, I got an unlocked piece around flow and knowledge, and how I drew a map out. I put flow, and then I put knowledge. And I was shown that if you lean too far into flow, which is something that is super sacred to me, is my flow, is like what's alive in the moment and the medicine of the moment. Oh, I'm just creating a song up on the spot. And like, and there's beauty in that. There's a lot of beauty in that. However, if you lean too far into the flow, become receptible to infiltrating the darkness, the dark side of it. If you lean too far into knowledge, you're receptible to infiltrating darkness from it, which is becoming creates almost like a cage around, because I'm knowledgeable, I can't tap into the intuition and the medicine of the moment. So true internal power is found in the study and the knowledge and the research and the understanding of history and what's happened on this planet and the direction that we're moving in and the resources and the economic situation, and study the gene keys and astrology and the Vedics and the sutras, and just real study and training in the flow and the play and the music at the moment, and let's just freestyle jam, and hey, let's come out with a riff and and keeping that muscle alive. This is the algorithm of true authentic power, because it's the masculine and the feminine structure that's infiltrated in the balance. And I put flow plus knowledge equals power to be used for good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the balance piece.
Lean too farther in either way and the darkness can infiltrate.
So the darkness, the dark side of the moon, the shadow of flow would be just like only ever being in the moment without making an actual contribution on the physical level.
It's
or what does it look like to you?
There's multiple factors from my perspective. Would be the flow isn't allowing, if it's just the default of flow and there isn't the structure of knowledge, then the flow doesn't really allow us to get out of our own individual experience and into the service to the whole, because it's what's here in the moment and what's going on. But it's actually, there's a bigger issue happening on the planet. There's an infiltration of darkness on the planet that is taking us, ripping us from our own personal power and our empowerment, or brainwashing us into believing into a narrative that is not our authentic truth. And so the flow actually is not plugged into the pulse of what the world needs. Also, the shadow side of flow is not committing to something in the long term. So if I just continuously stay in the flow, also realizing, say, if I have a child, hey, I need to think about 10 years from now for this child. What can I plant now that can be passed on to the child when the child is starting to become an adult? It's a deeper level of wisdom around what takes the longevity, what takes a commitment over a prolonged period of time, which then builds worlds. That is incorporated with knowledge, flow and knowledge, the knowledge of understanding how to best utilize this brain to become a servant of a higher self, as opposed to a master, which then just overrides the potency of what we can bring in this life. So as just being in the flow is like getting a glass of water and pouring on a table. It just leaks everywhere. And if we want to be potent, if we really want to make a difference and be of service to the planet, we need to have the glass to put the flow in. The flow being the water, the glass being the knowledge. Now we have water that we can drink and quench our thirst and heal us. that being the planet.
Hmm.
So I have been someone that has really been very strong in the flow.
Me too.
But being in a room of world leaders
Mm.
and game changers, I really got to understand the power of knowledge.
All right. But also not, I'm going to say, and just bringing in this piece that we also spoke about this morning about the masculine and the feminine. And I feel this with you, and I know this with myself as well. I fully believe in like integrated balance in our own being. And I also deeply feel in my own truth in how I've moved into the world and challenged myself in those ways. And then what I keep coming home to is that in this embodiment, in this little Reggie Riverbear creature, I am a creature of flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my default.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I don't have the knowledge or that I can't go when I need to, because I can. However,
Mm-hmm.
my contribution more often than not, as is yours, is that representation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and I feel and I see that often then attracts another person that brings that piece of the structure and the embodiment and the business and the thing and the like, where it funnels into.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for definitely to cultivate both inside of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also that
The
real
meta conversation.
superpower
Yeah.
of what we bring to a space. And you got to feel that again in this week that you just went through of being with people that are like 3D constructing very physical projects
Mm-hmm.
on big scales. And I've had that in my own way. And then feeling that we get to give weight to the invisible.
Mm-hmm.
We get to give weight to the flow. We get to,
Did you hear that?
bless you. Yes, we all heard it.
That was really loud. Hey, if you're listening to this and my neck just cracked because
Truth
Reggie's
crack.
tapping into some codes that are being integrated on a somatic level.
But yeah, just to round up that thought, there's a reclamation of the equal importance of the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I'm finding in myself and that I keep leaning into is exactly what you came into the retreat with. Like, what am I contributing to the space if I don't ...
Mm-hmm.
fill in?
Mm-hmm.
Same for me, right? What am I contributing if I'm not always on my Instagram accounts or I'm not always working? Is like, all right, we get to embody and know that it's enough to be, and that when we do our work, and that when we choose those higher frequencies and we fucking deal with the crap that comes up to give us the opportunity to lock into that next level, just walking into a space, even if you don't walk into a space, sitting here by your tree, if you never turn on the camera, that you are enough, that your flow is your contribution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, like we are in the physical reality and we want to create and want to co-create and want to do all the things, do that part. And you are home in flow. I am home in flow. And there's still a conversation around productivity and around if you're not then, but we are. I've had to really have that conversation with myself many times. Like, I am enough. Even if I don't sing the song in the circle, even if I'm just sitting there, because I know that my field and the work that I do inside of me is emanating something that is contributing in any all times to anybody who's in the surrounding. So yes, to what you wrote. And I just feel to voice that because it's still a part that comes up for a lot of us. What are you doing? I am. You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about within like a deeper layer of responsibility, and then coming back full circle around our spiritual currency being our attention, and how there was this application, Instagram, that is designed to suck attention. How recognizing we're only designated so much energy, and I could redistribute my energy to support a balance of the knowledge in the flow. So instead of scrolling, to study a book on female shamans, for example, right? So like that actually felt like, instead of saying I'm not enough or I'm not doing enough, recognizing I have only a certain amount of energy and my energy is being utilized to be of service. So how can I create more of a balance within the flow and the structure, recognizing I'm very strong in the flow. The knowledge is something that will be forever journey, and I have this amount of energy and it's being taken or given to something that is a bottomless pit and it's the hungry ghost. Or I can give it to something that packs wisdom and knowledge that stays with me for the rest of my life. Because once a book has been read, it's in here for forever. It's an amazing asset. Once a language has been learned or a conversation has been had, it's an asset that sits in the body, that stays until the moment we take our last breath and then on to the next. And so the responsibility of a redistribution of life force energy of attention while not making myself less than, because my default is in the flow. So it was really just an opportunity to up level without making one wrong.
And it's cool because I feel like as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, wow. Like even the school systems are changing to that, right? All the new systems that are new, which are based on old ways, which are coming into being, is that like, if you allow the kids to be in their natural flow, in their natural environment, which I feel like is something that we're trying to cultivating in our life, the natural intelligence of the being knows, oh, like, even if it's not conscious, right? Oh, that's part of where my service, where my dharma is. So let's align with the book, or let's align with the person, or let's align with the course, or whatever it is. And then it naturally pulls that in. It's like, now I'm reading from a place of genuine excitement and curiosity and wanting to know, but it always is propelled from the like inner joy, like the follow your bliss, that your spirit knows what the tools that are needed to set you off on the journey that is of your most high purpose, of your most high excitement, of your most high benevolent contribution to all of humanity, la, 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 la. And that maybe in that way, as flow beings, that's where the power lies, right? It's like when we get to fully sink into that flow, that creates the energy to then redistribute. I love that. I think that's how we're designed as humans. Exciting!
It is exciting.
Totally.
To come to the point being like, hey, I get to be me.
Yeah.
That realization of the pure gift to have a brain and to have a body and to have a heart and to have a soul and to play this human experience and to absorb as much of it as possible because it's safe to do so. And then that the piece around like saying, oh well, I'm too much in the flow and I should be doing should and da, 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 da. I got to see the whole mental construct of my consciousness of how I only grew as a child through punishment. That was how my school was set up. Like, yeah, if you win a race, you get a medal. But if you've done something bad, if you've done something that's not in alignment with the grand vision of the space, you get punished, and that's how you learn. Well, then eventually when the teachers or the professor or whatever is no longer punishing me, who becomes the punisher?
Bluey.
So
it's all right, I punish my own self. Don't worry about it. No.
But it creates this mental prison of limitation set up through the fear of not ever wanting to do something bad or hurt someone. And so I saw this whole construct that had been set up. It's a program. Literally, our whole childhood is programming this computer hard frame to operate in a certain way as an adult. And everything that we're exposed to as children, specifically in the first 7 years, which is the layers of our DNA being formed for our adult life, is created through the constructs in which we learn from. And so I saw the whole construct of being so hard on myself all the time. Unnecessarily. It's such wasted life force energy, such precious wasted life force energy in the energy of shame and guilt. And I got to be like, so deep. Oh my gosh. So deep. And it infiltrates and touches everything. And you know, how I take care of others can also be infiltrated with that. Like, I want you to feel like I've done something bad, so I'm going to go above and beyond, right? So that it can find its way into some of the gifts too,
right?
But it's like a construct that has roots, like the tree. It's like, and so I just got to really look at that, and I was having a moment when I was like, really, and Azria turned to me, she goes, "It's okay. You can forgive yourself." I can? Well, that wasn't an option 2 minutes ago. I can forgive myself.
I should sit here and suffer.
Wow.
Wow.
So then there's another song that Brianna would always sing is, oh no, not Brianna. Another sister, one of my teachers. I forgive myself for everything. And I forgive myself for everything. And I was like, whoa. I just opened a cage that I created myself, and I opened up my own door, and then a dove flew out. Yeah, so powerful. Anyways, I wrote so many notes, but that really
what is the one big
oh, there's so many. My commitment is to integrity to my word. Integrity, but my word is everything. My word literally weaves worlds, and if I cannot trust my own word, then what can I trust? And trust is the foundation of leadership. Authenticity to whatever is alive and whatever is present in the moment, without trying it to make it something just to appease what I think others will want, but to genuinely be in authenticity to what is alive for myself now in the moment. Dark side of the moon, light side of the moon, all of it's welcome. My commitment to relationships and making sure that I water them like flowers and make sure that they have the right environment, with the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of soil, the right soil for them to bloom and to be nourished, because relationships are everything. My commitment is to consciousness and to always finding areas of my life where more consciousness can be infiltrated into it, because being self-aware is really just being conscious of all that is. And community. We can't do this alone. We get to do it together. It gets to be fun. It gets to be nourishing. It gets to have many textures and many flavors. And community is the way that we can collectively raise the frequency in a much stronger, more potent way. And that this isn't about us, but there is unity in the word community, because beauty, love, and unity, part of my mission. So that would sum up my commitments.
Yum. Full support. Sounds like set up for a beautiful next chapter.
Yeah. And there's a reason why I started a brand new journal this trip, and and Chelsea wrote at the beginning of it, "To the woman of the wind, let her story begin."
And so it begins.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
The choiceless choice at this point.
Yeah. And still, you could decide tomorrow that you don't want to anymore. So you are.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for being here. Like, this is really special for me. This is a deeper layer of being able to explore what's going on in my consciousness, because I truly feel like you understand me and you see me, and you also operate on a very similar program as I operate through your perspective of life. And so it's such a nourishing opportunity to bounce back and forth ideas from a very similar place, but from a slightly different perspective, which allows me to receive my own wisdom in a deeper way. So thank you for being one of my best friends, for being my business partner in fluorescence. Thank you for always exploring our edges. Thank you for being real with what's alive and not feeling like you need to show up anything else but what is. And thanks for singing the Celine Dion medley with me in the sauna this morning.
That's really what it's all about. In the end, it's like all the consciousness stuff is pretty cool, but where's Celine Dion? And when are we gonna get sweaty and dance naked?
We were butt-ass naked in the sauna.
Dripping sweat.
Dripping sweat. Breaking it down to the whole Celine Dion album.
Ooh.
And there was like
lots of interpretive dancing going on.
Yeah. It was a journey. We went on a journey today. And then we afterwards, when we were dripping in sweat after our Celine Dion medley, we jumped in the cold plunge and then we just did the podcast. So
the perfect prep.
Yeah. Actually, though, this is literally breakfast of champions.
Thanks, my love. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks for sharing your stories. Thanks for creating beauty. Doing what you do. It's a treat.
Well, we're going to have more of you. We'll have you back. Is there anything you'd like to say to the Bluebirds before we sign out?
I hope you take a moment today to listen to Celine Dion, to get naked, to get wild, to not take shit too seriously.
To sweat a little bit.
Just for a little bit. Enjoy.
Great ending wisdom. Thank you, Red.
Always bringing it.
Yeah. Authenticity, check. Alrighty. Well, beautiful humans, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Deja Blu. If you resonate with this podcast and this episode specifically, then I encourage you to share it on your stories, through your social media and your platforms and all of the things that we're not giving power over, but utilizing as a tool. And thank you for your prayers, for your love, for your devotion, for your all-in energy. You are so deeply felt, and you're the reason why this podcast is even alive. So I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And may this podcast be a permission slip for you to allow yourself to receive all of what is present as medicine, and to trust in an even deeper way that there is always a silver lining and there is a deeper reason why this is happening. And the gift of it is found on the softening and the surrender to what is. So trusting that this too shall pass if you're experiencing the dark night of the soul, and know that you're not alone. And we all go through our individual initiations, but the initiations are for everybody. So sending you so much love and so much gratitude. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Deja Blu.